Hannah couldn't believe her eyes. There, by the bakery counter, stood her husband, the very same man who'd left just a week ago to work on an oil rig for the next 3 months. And next to him was a young woman she didn't recognize. The two were deep in conversation, laughing, and then Jake, wrapped his arm gently around the woman's waist. Her heart clenched like someone had grabbed it with an icy hand. This can't be happening. It just can't, raced through her mind. She quickly ducked behind a shelf with discount items, peeking out anxiously. People continued shopping as if nothing was wrong. Carefree music floated from the speakers. It was an ordinary evening at the store, but for Hannah, nothing felt normal anymore. Her world was falling apart. Even the air seemed thick and unreal, like in a bad dream. There was no mistake. That tall brunette in the leather jacket with slightly wavy hair, she'd know him anywhere. It was Jake. Just a week ago, she'd hugged him goodbye, wishing him luck on that very same trip. The memory came rushing back. A cold, early morning at the airport. Jake holding her tight before boarding. "Don't worry, honey," he had said confidently. "Where I'm going, there's barely any signal. I might not be able to call often, but just know I'm working hard and missing you." He'd sworn he'd be grinding non-stop on the oil platform to earn good money for them. Hannah had felt proud of him in that moment. Her husband, heading off to a tough job, unafraid of the challenge, all for their family. She believed every word he said. She'd kissed him goodbye, handed him a warm hoodie, and told him to take care of himself. Jake smiled, promised to bring back gifts, and said everything would be fine. Hannah hadn't doubted him for a second. For the whole week after he left, she'd lived in quiet anticipation, counting the days in her head until he might call or send a message. She missed him, worried about him, and never once questioned his honesty. And now, just a week after that emotional farewell, she saw him again. Not on a distant oil rig, but here, in a regular supermarket, laughing, touching, holding another woman. Hannah clamped a hand over her mouth, afraid she might make a sound. A firestorm flared in her chest, hot rage crashing into cold betrayal. How could he? They'd been married for almost 10 years. She'd trusted him completely. And he was supposed to be working, not sneaking around with some lover in their own hometown. Her first instinct was to run. To leave before Jake noticed her, go home, and cry into her pillow. Who wouldn't? No one should have to witness the person they love wrapped in someone else's arms. It felt easier to hide, to escape and pretend she hadn't seen it. But then, rising from the pit of her stomach, came a wave of anger that burned hotter than the pain. No. She wasn't going to let this go that easily. 10 years flashed through her mind. All the moments she'd believed in him, loved him unconditionally. She'd always supported Jake, celebrated his wins, endured the endless trips and long work assignments. And for what? For him to throw all that away and betray her like this? The thought only made Hannah's anger flare hotter. Shaking with tension, she peeked out again. Her heart no longer clenched in fear, now it burned with righteous fury. The tears in her eyes had dried up, replaced by a cold determination. Jake and the woman had made their way to the checkout, placing their items on the conveyor belt. Looked like they were planning a romantic dinner. Candles, a box of chocolates, a bottle of red wine, everything for a cozy night in. Hannah's cheeks flushed with heat. Memories rushed back, his past trips, how she'd begged him to call, to at least send a message now and then. And how he'd brushed it off, saying the internet out there was terrible. She remembered the rare texts, working. Miss you. How she'd packed his bag with care, slipping in warm socks and snacks. And now, while she'd been pacing the floor in worry, thinking he was out risking his life on some oil rig, he was here, living it up with another woman. Hannah straightened. She wasn't trembling from shock anymore. What boiled in her now was resolve. A need to make things right. He's going to know exactly what I think of him, she decided, clenching her fists as she walked toward the checkout. The cashier was ringing up their items, and the couple was laughing at some private joke. Hannah stopped just a couple steps behind them. They hadn't noticed her yet. She glanced around quickly. A few other people were waiting in line, baskets full. The checkout next to them was busy too. The cashier there lazily scanned items but gave Hannah a curious look. She must have looked too tense to ignore. Hannah felt her pulse pounding in her temples. One more second and I'll explode, she realized. Through the fog of her thoughts, she heard the cashier speak. "Who's paying today?" Jake pulled out his wallet. The woman next to him tucked her hair behind her ear and playfully touched his arm. "Jake, maybe I should pay," she purred. "Oh, come on," he chuckled, sounding pleased with himself. "Put your wallet away. You know I've got oil rig money now. It's amazing. More than enough for everything." Hannah's vision went blurry for a moment. He dares to brag about that money, right here, right now, while I sit at home believing every word of his work trip lie. The cashier handed over the receipt, and the two headed for the exit, bags in hand. They walked right past Hannah, completely wrapped up in each other, still unaware she was even there. But she wasn't going to back down now. She spun around and quickly caught up with them near the entrance, where a small crowd had formed by the turnstiles. Taking a deep breath, she pulled together every ounce of pain and fury and called out, loud and clear. "Jake! What a surprise!" Her voice cracked a little, rising sharply, drawing curious looks from nearby shoppers. People turned to see who she was talking to, and who she was talking about. Jake froze. He spun around like someone had yanked him by the collar. And when he saw his wife standing there, he went pale as a ghost. The woman next to him glanced from Hannah to Jake, stunned. "Hannah," he breathed, completely thrown off. A few shoppers slowed down near the exit, clearly intrigued. Something was going down, and no one wanted to miss it. Hannah, seeing the stunned look on Jake's face, felt a sharp sting of satisfaction. Good. Now he had nowhere to run. And that was just the beginning. She took another step forward and said, loud and clear for everyone to hear. "Well, honey, what a lovely surprise to see you back already from your big oil rig job. And here I was thinking you were still out there working hard. What a nice little coincidence, running into you right here, in the store, with such charming company." For a moment, silence. You could hear the beeping of the scanners and the soft thud of someone dropping a bag of apples. Jake opened his mouth but froze, not a sound coming out. His companion frowned. "Oil rig? What are you talking about?" she asked, staring at Jake in disbelief. "What kind of joke is this?" Hannah forced a tight smile and turned to the woman, still speaking loudly enough for everyone around to hear. "You probably didn't know, but this man is my husband. And just a week ago, he left on a long work rotation. Or at least, that's what he told me." The woman's face changed instantly. Whatever charm she had vanished in a flash. She took a step away from Jake, eyes darting between him and Hannah. "Wife?" she whispered. "You're married?" She was no longer looking at Hannah, her shocked question was aimed right at Jake. Her voice had gone up a notch, drawing more curious stares. A few people around them gasped softly. The air at the store entrance grew tense. Jake swallowed hard. "Tammin, I can explain," he stammered, reaching out to her. But she jerked away from him like she'd been burned. Hannah wasn't about to let him collect himself. She was shaking, but she kept going, pressing in. "Yes, Jake, go ahead. Explain. You're so good at that, right? Explain why you lied to me about your trip. Explain how your so-called job turned into having a girlfriend. Go ahead, explain it to all of us." She gestured around them. A crowd of maybe a dozen or more shoppers had gathered, completely forgetting their carts and bags. One of the nearby cashiers had even stood up a little, craning her neck to see. Jake looked around like a trapped animal. His face was flickering between pale and beet red. "Hannah, not here," he rasped, trying to keep his voice steady. "Let's go outside and talk." But Hannah had no intention of holding back. Her voice rang with fury. "Why not here? You didn't mind wrapping your arms around your little girlfriend in public while your wife was at home waiting for you. So tell me, why should I be embarrassed now?" Her eyes blazed. There were no more tears, no more doubt in them. Just pure rage. A couple of men in the crowd shook their heads in sympathy. Someone muttered under their breath. "Guys got no shame." Tammin, the woman Jake had called by name, finally found her voice. "You've been lying to me this whole time," she shouted at him. "You said you were single. Said you were just in town for work. You're such a jerk." She shoved him hard in the shoulder with her fist. Jake staggered slightly. The crowd buzzed with murmurs. "What the hell is wrong with you?" He started to snap back, but Tammin cut him off. "Don't you dare speak to me," she shouted. Her eyes flashed. "I was such an idiot to believe you." She was boiling with rage, and for a moment it looked like things were about to turn into a full-on fight. Jake tried to grab Tammin's hand. "Tammin, please, let me explain. I mean it. I'm sorry." But she yanked her hand back and slapped him, loud and hard. A few people gasped, and one older man muttered, "Well, damn." Hannah felt her own pain ease slightly, replaced by a bitter sense of justice. Jake was finally getting what he deserved, from both of them. He stood there between his wife and his mistress, head down, all his earlier confidence completely gone. "So, you're married," Tammin said coldly, giving him a disgusted once-over. "And you dragged me into your lies. I can't believe I even stood next to you." Then she turned to Hannah and said, "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to get involved in someone else's life like this." With that, she spun on her heel and stormed off through the crowd, eyes blazing. People stepped aside to let her through, and someone whispered, "Poor girl." Tammin let out a choked sob of anger and humiliation as she disappeared out the doors. Now only Hannah, Jake, and a dozen silent bystanders remained near the entrance. An awkward pause settled over the group. Jake still couldn't bring himself to look at her. He was nervously squeezing a plastic grocery bag, like he had no idea what to do with his hands. Hannah exhaled slowly. The awful scene was nearly over. All that was left was to end it properly. She stepped right up to him. He whispered, "Hannah, don't you dare say a word." She cut him off quietly, but clearly enough for the others to hear. "I see exactly what kind of man you are. Even now, when there's no point denying anything, your first instinct was to comfort her, your mistress, while I, your wife, stood right next to you." Jake whispered, "I'm such an idiot." "You got that right," she said. "And I think we both know there's no point continuing this marriage." Jake flinched like she'd hit him. "No, wait, don't say that. I can fix this." Hannah shook her head, an odd calm settling over her. The tears that had been burning in her throat didn't fall. She clenched her hands to stop them from shaking. "It's too late. You destroyed my trust, and our family with it," she said, her voice cracking slightly at the end. But she pulled herself together quickly. "Pack your things whenever you want, and leave. Go back to your oil rig, or your mistress. I don't care. Just don't come home. Find somewhere else to sleep." Her words were quiet, but the people around them leaned in, hanging on every one. In the stillness that had settled over the store, they rang out loud and clear. Jake blinked in disbelief. "Hannah, come on. You were the one who always said family is the most important thing." "It was the most important thing," she said with a bitter laugh, "until you destroyed it." He reached out, trying to touch her hand, but Hannah pulled away. "Don't touch me," she snapped, her eyes flashing. "You disgust me." Then she turned on her heel and walked toward the exit, leaving him behind. But just before the door, she stopped and looked back at him. Her voice rang out, sharp and mocking. "Jake, enjoy your time off after such a hard rotation." Then she stepped outside, shoulders back. The gray sky, the light drizzle, the chilly wind, it all hit her at once, but inside, she felt strangely warm. Jake made a move to follow her, but a broad-shouldered man from the crowd stepped in his way. "That's enough. Cool it, man," the stranger said quietly. A few other bystanders nodded in agreement. Jake froze. Chasing after Hannah was pointless now. He looked around. People were watching his every move, their faces full of judgment. A few snickered, others shook their heads in disgust. He lowered his gaze and quickly slipped deeper into the store, away from the staring eyes. Behind him, the buzz of voices swelled. "What a jerk. Can't believe this actually happened, like, in real life. That poor woman. I can't imagine what she's going through." And then, from behind, Hannah heard an older woman call out gently. "Sweetheart, it's going to be okay. Don't lose heart." Hannah turned and gave her a faint, sad smile. "Thank you," she said softly. People looked at her with sympathy and admiration. As if she were a heroine who had stood her ground. Someone patted her shoulder with quiet support. A middle-aged woman walking by leaned in and whispered, "You did the right thing. Seriously." Then, walking alongside her, she added gently, "Not everyone would have had the courage. Stay strong, it's going to get better." Hannah nodded in response, her eyes welling up, but she held it together until she was alone. When she reached the bus stop at the edge of the parking lot, she sat down on the empty bench and buried her face in her hands. The tears came pouring out. Soft sobs shook her chest as the pain she'd kept inside finally spilled free. Just minutes ago, she had stood tall in front of strangers. Now, she let herself cry. After 5 minutes or so, the weight began to ease. The tears slowed. Her breathing calmed. The ache in her chest was still there, but it wasn't crushing anymore. It hurt, deeply. Her heart felt scorched by betrayal. Ahead lay difficult conversations, divorce, lonely evenings. But even with all of that, something new was quietly rising inside her. A sense of peace. She hadn't stayed silent. She hadn't swallowed the betrayal. She had called him out, right there, in the open. She had shown everyone, and herself, that she had self-respect. That she valued her dignity. And that no one would ever treat her like a fool again. The fairy tale of a happy marriage with Jake had crumbled. But Hannah knew, deep down, that a new chapter was waiting for her. One where she'd be with someone who truly deserved her. And if that chapter didn't include anyone else, she'd still be fine. Because being alone was 1,000 times better than being with a cheating husband. She had reclaimed her self-worth. And that, bitter as it was her victory. If this story touched you, share it with someone close to you. Like the video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next one. And let us know in the comments